And we are joined now by former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. A very good morning to you, Matthew.
Good morning to you both.
So where are you when it comes to the spring statement yesterday? Do you think this was, failing to fix the foundations, more tax rises coming, an absolute disaster for the economy? Or the other criticism, which seems to be coming from the Mirror and the Guardian, which is that this is Rachel Reeves basically balancing the books on the backs of the poor? Because I've yet to find anyone who was happy with what she had to say yesterday.
Well, I think that the real issue here is, in a sense, they're both right, because she has boxed herself in with the OBR, the obsession with the OBR and the obsession with ensuring she has enough headroom, as you were saying a few moments ago, Julia, in 5 years' time on a forecast that most people think will bear about as much relation to reality as Donald Trump's speeches. So, so I think the real lost opportunity was yesterday was to say, look, we're going to be responsible. We're not going to go crazy on spending, but I'm not going to break the backs, or indeed, as some would say, break the backs of the very poorest in society to balance the books. And in particular, she keeps saying that the life has changed. What's really changed is Donald Trump has changed the whole political universe. But of course, because the government has this very peculiar situation where they won't even say his name. They won't even.
But aren't they being sensible there? I think they're being rather wise, given that you've got this sort of egomaniac in Donald Trump. It's not Trump derangement syndrome. The man doesn't like being criticised. It's not going to serve any purpose for them to say Donald Trump has made this all a problem. It's not going to help Britain, is it?
I think they should be diplomatic, but I think you can't ignore the elephant in the room by even naming the elephant, even if you don't criticise the elephant in the room. And as we've seen with the auto tariffs overnight, unless an exemption is pulled from the hat, Britain is going to be affected, and the silence is not exactly winning it. So we're going to see in the next 6.5 days whether the nicey strategy is going to deliver results.
Well, Rachel Reeves was hinting this morning that there are still conversations going on behind the scenes, in the hope that, of course, we don't have this massive balance of trade surplus with the United States as some other countries do. And again, as I pointed out to our American commentators, reason people don't buy American cars is they're not very good cars. The reason people want to buy British cars like Range Rovers and Jaguars and the like is because they're very good cars. It's really that simple. I mean, customers ultimately make that decision, but making them sort of $10,000, $20,000 more expensive for Americans to purchase, I'm not sure American consumers are going to be very happy about that. But this is the thing. You say she's boxed herself in, and there's this idea, and a lot of people on the Labour backbench are saying, oh, this is just balancing the books. It's like, well, yeah, because we see what happens when you don't. And it's extraordinary that we do actually have a higher, borrowing commitment. Our cost of servicing our debt is currently higher than it was after Liz Truss's emergency budget in the autumn of 2022. She was ousted from office a few weeks later. Rachel Reeves, I doubt very much is going to last a whole year in office, given how unhappy everyone left and right is with her at the current time. But at the end of the day, it's not her fiscal rules, it's the market's fiscal rules. If they're not happy, if they don't trust what she's doing, they're going to raise the cost of borrowing. We're already spending £100 billion a year just paying the interest on our debt. We can't afford any more.
Well, look, I agree with you, Julia. There is no blank cheque, and those in the Labour Party who think that you can just spend like a 1970s Paul's winner are living in cloud cuckoo land. So, in a sense, not only the Labour Party but the country have to wake up to the reality of the fact that there's a limit to what we can spend. However, as you've just said, borrowing costs are fairly high even within these fiscal rules. So I think that, I think that sticking to this slightly artificial target is the issue. Showing responsibility across the piece is important. Let's face it, she wouldn't be waking up to the Mirror and Guardian headlines if it was for the sake of £1 billion. And I don't think £1 billion is going to add much to the borrowing costs. There's jitters on the markets generally about the borrowing costs overall. And I think the issue within the Labour Party on the welfare changes.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know perfectly well, as I do, that the welfare budget is unsustainable. It's going up. Even under this government, it's not austerity, as one of our economists just pointed out. It's not austerity. The government spending is still going up. Government spending on welfare is still going to go up. It's going to continue to go up. There's no real certainty that even these cuts will lead to a cut in the rise in the welfare dependency. That people will actually come off one benefit and not just go on to another benefit rather than getting a job. This has to be tackled. This is just about the reality of the demographics of this country and the number of people we need to be working to support an ageing population.
Look, absolutely, Julia. I agree with you. In a sense, the government does, because it does have a welfare to reform plan. I mean, for example, in terms of the personal independence payments, one of the big problems is that since the pandemic, only 2 out of 10 people are seen in person.
Yeah.
And it was 7 out of 10 before. They want to get that back up so that people are
Well, it should be 10 out of 10, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, but if you've got a 2-year, as I discovered from my colleague who works, a friend of mine who works in the benefits office, there's a 2-year delay on people being reassessed. I mean, how quickly is that going to kick in? Half the people working for the benefits office don't work in the office anymore. They're working from home and they're refusing to go back in the office.
Yeah, well, they've got to tackle that, and they've got to make sure that
they don't even tackle it in Whitehall. How are they going to tackle it in the benefits office?
Well, I think in a sense, and if you're going to do a face-to-face assessment, you need to be in place more, even than those civil servants on Fridays working from home. But I think the problem inside the Labour Party on the benefit cuts is actually quite a lot of people in the Labour Party, the majority of people accept welfare reform. They need to get people off welfare into work. We saw a plan 10 days ago, which was meant to be about that. And then suddenly, to meet these fairly artificial targets, she then had to find an extra £1 billion of cuts down the back of the sofa. Yeah. And that's what's pushing people over the edge.
That's what's happening. But the thing is, I think a lot of people recognise in principle, in theory, there should be benefit cuts. But when anyone's benefits are actually cut, they all scream blue murder and say, no, 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 not that person's benefits. Now, I don't want somebody's benefits to be cut in real terms because they're not going up with inflation. If those are benefits that people need, the question is how many people actually need those benefits? That's the key thing. I mean, we're always told, oh, there's very low-level fraud. Well, there's fraud, there's organised gangs claiming benefits they don't really need. And then there are people who are swinging the lead who don't really need it. They don't count as fraudsters. They do to people, taxpayers like me. And then there are people who, frankly, could be helped to work. Frankly, I think their families should be helping them. Their friends should be helping them. The state should be helping them. And there shouldn't be an option of being on benefits because you've got anxiety or depression for the rest of your life. I just don't think that should be an option for the vast majority of those people. But when you actually talk about the specifics, BBC and every other broadcaster wheels out someone else with saying, oh, I can't work, my child can't work, I'm a carer, this or that. Every time it's always, they don't actually interview someone who says, yeah, well, I just don't want to work because I feel a bit anxious when I get on a bus. They don't interview those people. And you get Labour MPs saying, this is awful, this is awful. We don't want to hurt the people who really need the benefits, but I simply don't believe that a huge number of people on the benefits need them.
Look, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Everybody talks about it in practice as a good thing, but when it comes to their constituents who are moaning or the media, when they find case studies, as you say, they don't like it in practice. And as a country, and that includes the Labour Party, if we want to do things like defence or invest in the health service, we have to make sure that people who can work do work. That's the government's aim. That is the
well, how do we do that? What is the best way of doing that? Because I'm a big fan of workfare, and we know that work's good for you. If you've got depression or anxiety, I don't see why you can't clean graffiti, do something useful, or go and get another job. I think it'd be good. I mean, good to get you out in the fresh air, with other people doing something useful. I mean, these things are actually rather rewarding to do. People who go pick up litter on beaches and things like that. Why don't we get people doing things like that? It'd be good for them. It'd be good for us.
Well, what we can do is introduce some sanctions, and the benefit system is actually what the Blair Labour government did, particularly with young people. One of the things that Rachel's done is taking away PIP, the personal independence payment, from those between 18 and I think 22. Yeah. So that young people are not being written off right at the beginning of their career, so that they end up with a lifetime on benefit. We need to get people assessed in person so that their needs are actually assessed on an individual basis. And it's not.
But what do you do if someone says, I'm anxious? I get anxious when I have to go to work. I'm too depressed. I feel suicidal. That's the key word. The website's advice. If those people say that, whether it's in person or on the phone, if they say that, how can you not give them benefits if that's the tick box exercise you're going through?
Well, you can support them a lot better. For example, there's a great project in Sheffield which has had huge success in people who are on welfare into work, who suddenly got problems. For example, one person had a problem with their back. They worked in a pharmacy. They couldn't stand up all day. Their employer wouldn't let them sit down in a chair. Yep. Instead, the welfare to work, I think it's called Work City Sheffield, something like that. It then negotiated with the employer who was about to get rid of the person, and instead they've got a thing that works for them. So they're not. So everyone's a winner, and that's what it's got to be. It's got to be individualised support, which is why people need to be assessed in person. Okay. To have a work advisor back into work.
Well, we need to get the work advisors back into the office as well. First, well, just finally, very briefly, do you think Rachel Reeves survives in her job to, I don't know, Christmas, to the next election?
I think till Christmas, yes. I think to the next election is more questionable. I think that it's certainly she's going to have a better news story to tell if she's going to be there by the time we go to the vote.
Very interesting. Matthew Laza, former Labour Party advisor. What do you think, Philip Ingram?
Oh, a number of things in there. What Donald Trump's doing was predictable, and this shows that the Labour Party did no planning whatsoever. Yeah. And then they supported the Democrats. So Trump's team, who are extreme right-wing, will see Keir Starmer's team as the Democrats in the UK. So won't give us any concessions.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. But do you think Rachel Reeves survives the year?
No, I don't think so.
Very interesting.